Hi, I'm Katy Toma, President and CEO of the Chico Chamber, and I am here today with Rick Smith, who is the President and CEO of Tri-Counties Bank. And back on April 20th, I interviewed Rick, and he was actually my second Zoom interview that I did. And he shared with us about the PPP loans and what was happening at the bank. And at that time, as I was sharing with Rick a little while ago, that he was working in his office. He had a flannel shirt on. He hadn't shaved. And I was working. I did the video from my guest bedroom. It looked like I was in a prison cell. And so I'm back. We were back in the office in the chamber in May, and we're all, kind of back at it. So I just wanted to circle around with Rick and see how things were going. He had some great things to share about the PPP loans. And so, Rick, thanks for coming today. And I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, but I think that the Tri-Counties Bank story is a good one. And I'm glad that you're here to share with what's going on. So let's start off and talk about PPP and what ended up happening.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary point in time because keep in mind, as a bank, all banks, really, this was completely new. And we didn't have rules to follow until after we took the action. So it was pretty chaotic. And since that time, we learned as we went along, and of course, rules have been implemented, not all the ones we need, but more and more all the time. And as a result of the efforts of our team, we were able to do over 2,900 PPP loans for about $436 million. And that equated to, in jobs, that was about 44,000 jobs that benefited from being able to obtain the PPP funds. So that was really a positive event.
Well, one of the things that you said in the first video that we did was when you had an employee that had been there since 8 in the morning and it was 10 o'clock at night and they're still processing loan applications. And at that point that the money didn't matter, and that that you guys decided to start tracking the number of jobs that were being saved. Because I know that the businesses had to list the number of employees they had on their application. So I just think that that's tremendous when you think about your team and their dedication, their commitment to their customers. I think that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's about as proud of anything I've experienced at the bank. When you see employees really rally around a time where they were trying just simply to help and they would not stop. And we did focus on the job number as a measurement to how many. It became a rallying cry. How many jobs can you save? Because at that point it's fun to make extra overtime money. Of course, a lot of our employees aren't paid overtime if they're exempt, but those that did benefited. And so it wasn't about the money. It was about helping customers, which they became extraordinarily passionate about. And as a result, we would not have been able to accomplish what we did in just a couple of weeks, really, 2 to 3 weeks, to have most of that volume on a project that we really didn't even know how to do. And many of the employees were moved from place to place, from different cities, and worked from home, and we're learning, as we went along. But there were many midnights where the team was still in there saying, no, we can do a few more, and I just think that says a lot about community banks in general, not just ours, but it certainly it says a lot about our company and our people.
Well, it really speaks to the character of the culture that you've developed and the commitment to your customers. And I did share this story before, and actually I spoke to your customer today who actually was assigned somebody from Bakersfield. I guess you must have had a queue, and however they flipped, and whoever this lender was in Bakersfield, great communicator. The person that I was helping was, that you were helping, was fairly unsophisticated, and your staff person was really able to move them along the process smoothly. So PPP. So let's talk about loan forgiveness. So where are we with PPP?
Yeah, PPP has been a moving target, as many that have gone through the process realize that there seems to be more questions than answers as you go along. but I think we're starting to see some clarity. They did just, this week or last week, I'm getting confused, announced that, or maybe it was over the weekend, was loans at 50,000 and below would be given forgiveness with a simple application form, which was positive to hear that, because the majority of these loans were very small ticket loans. I mean, $50,000 is a lot of money, but people could also borrow in the millions. So to get a big chunk of our volumes, it represents about half the volume that we did. So it's really nice for us to go now. We've had to go out and buy software and automate the process for PPP, which we've done. This will help facilitate that and move that process along, because why not be forgiven at this point?
That's great.
But it also says the other half, loans greater than 50, are going to receive a higher level of scrutiny than the ones under 50. And so it still is a burden for our businesses to prove that they have qualified for forgiveness. And hopefully it won't be I think loans above $2 million will be more highly scrutinized, but still you need to do your homework and probably work with your accountants or whoever you use as an financial advisor.
Yeah, I know. In speaking with some of our members who have gotten the PPP, it's very confusing, and I keep telling them, you need to speak with your banker, you need to speak with your financial advisor and get the correct information. So let's talk about your team and how you as a company. I'm not sure how many employees you have now, but I'm sure you have a lot. And how you
over 1,000.
How many?
Over 1,000. So.
Wow. So how are you dealing with your team who's having to homeschool their kids? You've got folks working from home. You still have branch life. You're servicing your customers. So how are you doing? How are you guys coping with that?
Yeah, that's been if you keep in mind, we never shut down for any period of time. So our employees have been at first working from home, but our branches have stayed open, and it's been a big stress, just your work life. Then when you move your work life home, there's an added stress. And now I think all of us thought at the beginning, and I'm sure in March, most of us thought by September, the kids would be back in school and life would be normal. And we find out it's anything but normal. And so we have a lot of our staff is struggling to try to figure out how they're going to coordinate either working from home or working in the office with face masks and all the rest, and then coordinate and become the educator of your child or daycare. It's been a big issue, I think, for all businesses. It's certainly one of our biggest challenges, and we're trying to be as accommodative to our employees as we can, work with their scenario. We've looked at changing our business hours so that our employees could at least get their kids set up and working, and then be able to work some and then go back and spend time with them. So we're trying to think of a lot of things to do to alleviate that stress. And again, it's just one more stress. We've had many, the fires, the smoke, the mass, there's just so much pressure on people that it can be overwhelming. And so we certainly recognize it, but we're trying to do whatever we can to alleviate it as best we can.
Yeah, as an old-time banker, it's amazing to me because there never was flexibility before. Banking was so rigid, and the rules were cut and dry, and security. Working from home, it's just amazing. I remember when we got to do email on our phones, and what a big deal that was. And so things have come along, which I wanted to ask you about the future, because technology there's been an acceleration of the use of technology during COVID. So I'm curious how that's affected you at the bank and your plan.
Yeah, I think to me, it's kind of the silver lining of COVID for businesses will be the ability to use more technology, to recognize you can still do business without having to have a front door that needs to open for your customers to do business with you. And banking, for sure. For years now, we've been adding technologies that make it easier to do banking transactions. Started really with kind of internet banking, and now mobile is kind of dominates. But it's really provided the obvious to people now that once they're forced or compelled to use some of the technology, they're finding that boy, this is really convenient, and it's saving me a trip to that bank. So we're trying to push that. I think the reality is, as we come out of COVID, hopefully soon, behaviors will have changed, and we're going to try to adjust our business plan around the fact that these new technologies are here to stay. And we recognize some people don't like it, but overwhelmingly people find it convenient. And as long as it's good technology. And part of what we'll be doing and continue to do is make larger and larger investments into maybe call them self-service tools that make it easier to do banking.
Sure. So, so rates are really, really low, which as a consumer is fantastic. If you need to borrow money, but for the banks, I know that the margins are narrow anyway. Well, except back in the 80s when you weren't making any money when prime was 21, right? Um, but seriously, I mean, the rates are the Fed funds rate. I know. I mean, it's like zero or
It's
to it.
yeah, rates are incredibly low and likely to remain low. So, which is good news again for borrowers because they don't even need to race to the bat rack.
Yeah.
They're going to stay low for quite some time. It's bad for savers because it's very hard to find any return on your money. It's gotten so low, money really doesn't have value, which is not a good scenario for savers. It's not good for the bank. I mean, we like money when it has some value. And so that makes it very difficult. Our margins are going down, our revenues are going down as a result of it, and we're having to look at our expenses and what we need to do to get through this period of time. But at the same time, still invest in technologies and improve the bank for the future. So the low rates are the banker's worst friend. It's great for people that are refinancing their homes. I feel great about that because it's really, I think, kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to refinance your house to probably as low a rate as you'll ever see. And in fact, I hope so. But that's the good news for the borrowers, and it hopefully it means us when we do come out and the economy starts to pick up, it's going to make for healthier borrowers and people that are in good financial position, because it is a time to really think through your financial position and take steps to make some serious improvements to it. So that's probably going to be the silver lining of COVID. The rest of it you can have back.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about the challenges of COVID, not only COVID, but the fires and the smoke and mask wearing and creating shields. I know even in the chamber office, having to create shields and, mask, social distancing, and not letting people in without a mask. And there's just so many challenges. But I think that we are resilient people. I think that we have, especially here in the North State, I think we've proven ourselves. And I think that we know we've got the wherewithal and we have good partners. And I think about that and how fortunate we are that I can pick up the phone and you'll actually take my call. But the willingness to help and the commitment to each other and to our communities, that part really encourages me. And that's why I really wanted to follow up with you, because I was really anxious to hear your numbers. I wanted to hear about how many loans you made, how much it was, and about the jobs, and really to see how your team was going. Because like I said, being a former banker, I understand all the regulations and the security and of taking a laptop home when you've got all that, personal information, and just it's phenomenal how technology has come forward and you're able to serve your customers maybe even more efficiently, maybe even better.
Yeah, I think we found ways to keep the doors open differently than we maybe have done historically,
Yeah.
but it worked. And of course, thankful I've got the type of people that are willing to do what it takes to help. And so we feel really good about that. And, COVID's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, we have to, I think by this point, at first we weren't so sure of that,
Yeah.
but I think now, it will pass, and there will be a vaccine, or there'll be, something that eases that burden. It doesn't mean we should keep, not worry about it or not take protective actions, but it won't be the end of the planet. And businesses have been remarkable at finding ways to survive and change and stay in business. So I mean, it's really exciting to see that, and life's going to get better, and it's just
That's right.
hopefully it's around the corner.
I hope so too.
You mentioned PPP. I think there may be more PPP opportunities down the road here. If we could ever get politicians to maybe focus on all of us for a change instead of
Yeah.
themselves. But hopefully that comes, and hopefully some stimulus checks come, and all that I think would be very helpful to getting us back on our feet. And I think it's needed, but I also have my own personal view that probably won't happen until the election's over,
I was going to say,
one way or the other.
we'll follow up on November 4th.
Yeah, exactly. But I do
Yeah.
think that at least I hear there's an understanding that it's needed. It's just a matter of the politics is in the way.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, and just to give us an update on how it all went. And I'll probably check in with you in a couple months and see how it's going with the forgiveness and sorting through those big credits and the details of all that, and see how your team's doing. So thanks, and take care, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Katie. Good to see you.